Welcome to another episode of the Sipping and Tripping podcast, where we connect with amazing people. Today's topic is dating with intentions. I am your host, Desmond Black, and the person that's sipping and tripping with me today is a health practitioner and a former yoga studio owner. She is she's spiritual in nature. She is an empowerment coach, a retreat curator, and a podcast host. She is none other than Miss Katherine Galligan. It's an honor, privilege, and a pleasure to have you on my show today. Um, you know, Oftentimes we forget to check on our strong friends, and we forget to ask, important questions like how you doing and things of that nature. So, with that being said, how are you doing and how was your weekend?
Oh, that's really nice of you to ask, actually. um, you know, Thank you. So far, so good. It's been a really great weekend. And
Okay.
I don't know how you feel about stuff like this, but whenever I see a random animal, like I think it's a
Right.
sign. And I just
Right.
pulled into my driveway and I saw three, not one, but three. It's called a juvenile yellow crowned heron. And I I just live in the suburbs. I
Right.
we have squirrels here, squirrels and crows, and I'm like, that has to mean something. It has to mean something. And so
Right.
I would say that my weekend now is like it's like rich. It's like
Okay.
rich with like messages and stuff. You know what I mean? So,
So I'm curious, what type of message do you think that sent?
well, okay. Since you're asking, when I left the house, I saw one heron. And I was like,
Okay.
wow, that's really neat. And then when I came back, there were three. And I'm like, okay, someone's really trying to tell me something. Okay.
Okay.
And so herons, the way that they operate is, first of all, they're night. Dusk and dawn is when they're the most active, but
Right.
there's something about that, like, emergence, like that shift
Right.
from like daytime to nighttime, and then meanwhile, like, from nighttime to daytime, and it suggests a transformation's happening, and like
Gotcha.
something for me is about to change, and I actually think that's probably true, and
That's good.
because there's three, it's like it's really gonna happen.
Right.
And the way that herons are is they take their time. Like, they stand and they wait, and then they strike to, like, get a fish or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, they're not, like, aggressive, like, they don't pounce. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Gotcha.
they're super strategic and intentional. And so,
Right.
meaning, like, let it come to you, and then when it does, you'll know, and then that's go time for you. So that's what I think the messages are,
Okay. I
after
mean,
consulting ChatGPT. Yeah.
That's a popular thing. I'm gonna have to look into that. Everybody keep asking me if I use Chat GPT, and a lot of people tell me it's so great. They use it for everything. I know at work
Yeah.
they use the managers use it. They it's like the world's becoming like lazy and stuff. Because my manager, he or they don't even write messages to the staff. They go to
Yeah.
Chat GPT, and when we read it on the bulletin board, I'm like, that is not from you.
That
But
is,
it is what
yeah.
it is. It's the way of the world
Yes.
these days. So,
I know, I guess so.
all
Well,
right. So,
it's replacing Google. I think it's replacing Google searches.
well, yeah, but a ChatGPT is so advanced. It's like having an Albert Einstein by your side.
It is. It really is. Okay.
Interesting. So, on my platform, I like to conversate, educate, and entertain. So, as always, hopefully we do just that. I mean, I have no worries. So tell the viewers about your podcast and what made you start it.
Okay. I have a podcast, and I started it this year in 2025 on Valentine's Day. And
Okay.
the name of it is called Love to You All. And it's a podcast about love and world peace. And,
Okay.
and I think that people, I'm just gonna, like, in full disclosure, I think when people meet me, they tend to think, "Oh, she's really sweet and maybe kinda naive," you know? And like, "Oh, that's really nice, dear. That's great. You keep on going for world peace, okay?" And but, like, good luck with that. Like, that's a pipe dream at best. Do you know what I mean? And,
Right.
but and I understand why people will like see me that way. I mean, I definitely get that. But the way that I see it is it's absolutely possible. We just have to choose it. Like
Right.
it's available to us. It's absolutely available. And so, just like somebody could have a radical remission from cancer, like, oh, there's a 1% chance. Why can't this be that 1%? Like,
Right.
why? And I do think it's a conscious choice, and I do think it starts with each individual, you know?
Right.
And so I think that what I really hope for by starting that is to just be a source of light, even when things seem really, really dark out there.
Right.
Because the one thing that I've been blessed with is and who knows why, but just hope. Like, even like, for example, during COVID, when a lot of people around me were just hopeless, like they felt so powerless and terrified, and I had a small business at the time. I had a yoga studio, which definitely suffered during that. But I never gave up hope, like never. And I'm like, there's no way this is the end.
Right.
And that was kind of when I started getting my hand at doing things like Facebook Lives and just sharing messages of love and hope, because I think that's the only thing that's like really true and real about all of us at our essence. And so,
Right.
did that answer the question? I
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. It
Okay.
sounded good. I was intrigued. I was hanging on to every word that you said. So
Okay.
that's good. Now speaking about the podcast, like where can we find it?
It is on iTunes, like Apple, and it's on Spotify and also Amazon. And the name of it is called Love to You All. And I kind of alternate between doing like solo cast just by myself, but I
Right.
really like interviewing people. I mean, I really
Okay.
like hearing their experiences of maybe overcoming something, or like
Right.
how they're contributing that to the world. So for example, like
Right.
what you're doing is exactly that. Like, that's what you're
Right.
doing, right?
Right. Right.
It's
Right.
awesome.
Absolutely. And like a couple days ago, we spoke about me being on your show as well. So I look forward to that too. So we could definitely schedule that, whether that be today or whenever you're free. We could definitely schedule that because you already gave me like the premise of what you wanted to talk about. So I'm all for
Okay.
it, and I'm excited about it because you know a lot of people that know me, they know that like when I first started this podcast, it was with the intent to grow an audience for my food truck business, right? Because right now
Yeah.
I'm currently working on my own small business with the food truck thing, and I'm always cooking and preparing meals and trying to get an audience like that. But after a
Yeah.
while of doing this, I actually fell in love with it. It's therapeutic. It's like having a week to week counselor or therapist, right? And
Yeah.
that's what it does for me. Sometimes I might need to get something off my chest, and when I do this, being able to converse with other people, right? It's good for me. It's therapy. So, I love it, right? Because we all go through traumas, we all go through hard times in life, and sometimes we just need that ear, right? So that's what this
Yeah.
is for me.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in Houston, Texas, and that's where I grew up. And now I live in Dallas, so I didn't really go too far. And I
Gotcha.
did I did go to college, and I went on the East Coast, but I really like the way people are down here.
Okay.
It's like a
So
little more
so
genteel.
what do you like more, Houston or Dallas?
Well, I really like Houston because it's close to the coast, and it's
Okay.
extremely international. I guess Dallas has become more that way. But yeah, I'm a little biased, I think. And I think that the restaurants are so good there. Do you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the ironic thing is, you're from Texas, right? And it's like as it stands now, like it may change, who knows? But next year, my plan was to take a trip, a family
Yeah.
vacation to Texas. I have a couple of people that I've connected with from doing the podcast, and
Yeah.
it's at least like four different people. They live out there in Texas. So when I go out there, I look forward to meeting you all and face to face and just engaging that way. I think that'll be really good.
So
Yeah.
are you in Philadelphia? Where are you based?
New Jersey.
New Jersey. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's our cousin, our little sister state. It's New York, it's Pennsylvania, it's Delaware, it's New Jersey. We all right there.
Yep.
Um, so do you have any siblings?
Well, I did. I had an older brother, but he died. He died in 2018, and he had bipolar disorder. Are you familiar with that at all? And
Bipolar, yes.
okay, and that it's I'm not saying this for everybody, but it's not uncommon for people afflicted with that to have a high incidence of substance abuse. And
Mm,
that was true for him. And so he was kind of like lifelong addicted to alcohol. And
right.
eventually it caught up to his body. And so when he was 50, he died. And I would pay millions of dollars just to have 5 minutes, I miss him.
Could I can imagine, like, and it's always tough to lose somebody that's close to us or a loved one. It's tough, man. And it's the inevitable, but it's like nobody on the face of this earth is ready or willing to see somebody go.
Yeah.
And one thing that's disturbing for me is when I talk to my father or I go visit him because he lives in North Carolina. That's all he wants to talk about is his will and his days is
Oh.
numbered, and I'm like, that is so morbid, and I don't want to have these conversations. And he's like, listen, I raised you to be a man. I expect you to man up and just take life for what it is, right? And I'm like, listen,
Yeah.
I am a man, but it's just certain things I don't want to have a conversation about. Like he's like, oh, I'm gonna leave
Yeah.
this to you. I'm gonna leave this to your brother, and I just shake my head because he's stubborn and he's going to talk about it anyways. So, but it is very morbid to hear him talk. Like one of the
Yeah.
things I thought was unusual is him and my stepmom. They already got their plot dug. They got the headstone and everything.
Yes.
And yeah, so
Wow.
because his mother, my grandmother that passed, she owned 5 churches. She has a lot of property, and on the main church, everybody in our family that passed on my father's side, that's where they get buried. And so, birthdays or whatever, if I'm so happen to be down there, we go there, and he even visit his own. Isn't that crazy? I'm like, why are you
Dad.
saying you're alive, you're here in the flesh, but you're going to see your own headstone? That is weird. So his logic was the reason why him and my stepmom got it because he didn't want to pass, and then the family said they couldn't afford it. So he
Yeah.
said, so while he's here on Earth, he had the money, he paid for it, so he'll have a proper place to go, right? Because he said he didn't want
Well,
ashes just thrown out in the ocean or something like that. So
yeah.
I understand all that. I still think it's a little bit morbid.
It might be a little bit morbid. He is that is actually really loving of him to give you that gift of, like, not having to fuss with it, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
But I hear what you're saying, and yeah, I think no one's no less of a man to be sad, and grieve
right.
their dad. But is
Yeah,
he sick? Is he sick, or, like, does he feel like it's imminent for him?
so he's not sick. He just, he's in his 70s, and
Okay.
I think when most people as they get older, they start to think about those things.
Yeah.
Because obviously I know how old I am, but on my birthdays I tend to forget. People are like, "Happy birthday!" I'm like, "What?" And then I'm like,
Okay.
"What's the day?" And they tell me, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" It's one of those things. As I got older, like I don't expect happy birthdays. I don't expect gifts, none of that. So it's one of those things. It's like I'm just trying to live life comfortably. I don't want to think about it's another year. I'm just another year older. Like I don't try to get
Yeah.
caught up into that because it's crazy. Like nowadays, like even at work a couple times, or people that I'm like, oh, I'm 29 or I'm 30, and one of the most hurtful things that I've heard recently was somebody said, "Dang, if you 30, you must have had a rough life." I'm like, "Dang, that's crazy." And they was like, "Cause you look old." I'm like, "No, what?" When I
Oh,
look in the mirror, I don't see old. That's just me,
right. No.
So
No, no,
so
no,
then
no.
so I'm like, when I'm older, like, dang, what are they gonna say about me then?
They're gonna be like, "Wow, you're really old, man."
That's terrible. Oh, so what do you do for a living?
And well, I am self-employed, and I'm an Ayurveda health practitioner, I guess, for practical purposes, and but really the way that I make money, and it's two ways. I'll be a private chef for people, like for small groups and for families. So yeah, so you and I maybe share that in common. And Ayurveda is big about it's a Ayurveda is a system of medicine, and to them, like, food is medicine. And so,
Okay.
like, we heal not just your body, but your emotional body and your mental body also with food, like, always, always. And so anybody who decides to become an Ayurveda counselor or practitioner or doctor, they're gonna learn how to cook. I mean, that's like the very best thing that you can do for yourself. And so that is one thing. Um, and then the other is, I'm like a coach for people. And so I
That
sit with them. I mean, initially when I was first getting started, and that was about, well, it was like 10 years ago now, people would come to me with their health problems, right? And so, like,
right.
oh, I don't sleep at night, or I've whatever, indigestion, or, I have this rash that won't go away. And here's what, like, you can have a great diet and you can take all the Ayurvedic herbs on earth, but if you haven't figured out the reason why you got sick in the first place, which is going to be some sort of emotion, there's going to be some sort of emotional precedent that was there. And
Right.
also some sort of spiritual message for you to realize. And so I realized that, like, okay, well, I'm happy to talk to people and tell them what to eat and prescribe herbs and stuff like that. Like, that's all great. But I started realizing there's a much bigger problem to solve, because even if you get rid of your symptoms for a little bit, like,
Mhm.
it's just going to come back. Maybe not as the exact same rash, but something is going to come back until it gets your attention to pay attention to whatever. It might be a little niggling thing that you just kind of compartmentalize, like, oh, I'll deal with that later. Or
Right.
it might be like a pink elephant in the room that, it's kind of interesting how a lot of us do have a pink elephant in the room, and they're just like, it's like, that's not even there. It's just part of the landscape. I've gotten used to that
Right.
pink elephant. But Ayurveda absolutely believes that for someone to truly be healthy and for it to last, and Ayurveda believes that everyone deserves this. Everybody. It doesn't matter
Right.
who you are. Like, we all deserve to be fully healthy until we pass away. Um,
Right.
but in order to do that, it's more than just whatever physical manifestation is showing up for you in the form of, symptoms or pathology. There's
Right.
something more there. So I found that, like, I I love what I do, because I love just listening to people and really maybe reading between the lines where they weren't able to, and see, like, what, like, will the real problem please stand up? Like, what's really the
Right.
matter here? So, yeah, you might have cancer, but you know what? It goes all the way back to a trauma that, that maybe you didn't even categorize as a trauma during your childhood, but it's been with you
Right.
and your body kind of eating away at you ever since. So,
Right.
um, I would say that that is what I do, and,
Okay.
for a living, yes.
Okay. That's good. It's good. I mean, I love your energy. You sound real bubbly and just like you wake up happy every day, which is good. A lot
Thank
of people wake
you.
up on the wrong side of the bed and they don't even know why. So, it seems like you have a purpose and you know your purpose. It look like you have a path that you're walking in, and that, like I said, that's all good. I'm all about positivity. I tell everybody that. Like, if it's negative or if a person is negative, they got to go. I can't surround myself with that negative energy because it's draining. It's draining.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so, are you or have you ever been married?
Yes, okay, actually, yes, I'm married, and I've been
Mhm.
married, once before. So
Okay.
I got married in my 20s, and I was married for almost 14 years, and,
Mm,
I actually made a podcast about this, and not about my first husband, um but about, we had 2 children together, and we had 2
okay.
boys, and, now those boys are, like, they're old, they're adults, like, they're 18 and 20 years old, and but when our oldest one was 4, he had this, I mean, it was pretty serious at the time. He had a brain tumor, and they told us that, like, this could be malignant, and so, unfortunately, we have to go in and get it out. Like, it can't just be in there, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so it was like it was this big, huge deal, and, I have this, like, 4-year-old little boy and a 2-year-old little boy, and I was terrified, and it was how my husband at the time handled that I realized, I'm not I'm not sure that we're the best aligned couple. I'm not sure, like, I don't think I can grow old with him. Like, what, because
Mm,
something else is bound to happen. Like, something else is, I'm gonna get sick or something, and, like, we're not handling this well as a team. And we got through it, and we stayed married a lot more years. Because I'm not, like, quick to pull the trigger like that. But, I now, like, in hindsight, can look back at that and see where almost like my son and I maybe had some sort of soul contract or something like that, if you believe in that kind of thing, that he would kind of take one for the team and get that illness, so I'd have the opportunity to see, like, I can continue to stay married to a person where, we had been kind of unhappy, um, and continue on like that, or
mm,
when I'm ready, I can make the change. And so
right,
that's like I don't know. I mean, I it's a gift. It's a gift. Even if that's not true, it feels so good in my heart. Like, looking back, like, I really think that's what happened. And, like, how much my son would love me to do something like that. I mean, all
right,
of this is subconscious, right? It's not like this was something he chose in his conscious mind. There's no way. But
right,
it's almost just like this much bigger spiritual agreement that we had, that he lived out for me. And that
right.
and he's alive and well, by the way. Like, he's totally fine. It was just this rogue event. But yeah, I've experienced marriage, like, for sure.
Right, right, right.
The,
And
like, the good and the bad with it.
so your current marriage, how long has that been?
We got married in 2017. So
Oh,
almost 8 years.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's
We're
good. That's
we're
good.
clicking along. Yeah.
So, are you religious?
um, you know, do you want the long do you want me to make it quick for you? I
No,
wanna
it's
ask you I
go
wanna ask
ahead.
you all these questions too. Like, it doesn't feel fair for me to, like, just
That's
keep
all good.
talking about myself.
No, it
Um,
is okay.
okay, okay. Um, I grew up in a Christian household, and
Okay.
I was, baptized and confirmed and, did confession and all of that stuff, right? And then meanwhile, somewhere in there, I discovered yoga. And so before I even get into that, I want to emphasize, like, I believe in God and I believe in Jesus, and I think he had to have been one of the most beautifully compassionate and loving people, and I believe that he existed, and I like there's that belief hasn't gone away from me, and that structure hasn't gone away from me. I used to be a church goer. I mean, I went to mass, I said the rosary, I would go to the mass on the weekdays even, not even just, like, major holidays, like, I
Right,
was
right,
definitely, in it. And but then somewhere along the line, I got interested in yoga, and I started to understand, like, a map of consciousness that maybe didn't defy religion or didn't counter it, but it had a much broader perspective. And
right,
yoga and Ayurveda actually are umbrellaed under the same philosophy. So they have the same kind of idea that our, God is everywhere, and that there's no hell. There's no hell. And so I think because that I'm willing to believe that, and I actually agree with that, and and it was so liberating for me to not live in some sort of fear that, oh, I needed to be good so I didn't have some big lump sum punishment later after I died. You know what I mean? And I do think I was kind of operating that way, like, oh, every time I go to mass, it's like I was like in it for the wrong reasons. And so
right,
I would say now that I'm extremely spiritual, not really observing any major religion, but respect and appreciate all of them, if you
right,
will. And but I am way, like, nicer, more conscious, more present, more loving, more compassionate, less judgmental, less full of shame, things like that. Which is how I had been operating when I was, like, on paper, an excellent religious follower. But, like,
right,
here I am, and, like, there doesn't seem to be, I don't even know how to define myself except to say I'm a very spiritual person, and thank God. And I think that my heart, it would probably always was this big, but I have access to it now in a way that I didn't before.
Right. I got you. Um, what was I about to say? So it was something you said about spirituality. I know you were saying how you grew up in the church. Like I was also grew up in the church on my father's side, right? Because
Mhm.
everybody on my father's side of the family is highly religious.
Yeah,
Now,
they have 5 of them.
so yeah. Now the one thing that I often tell people is you can't force religion on people. So I am not
Yeah.
religious. I every once in a while consider taking that walk into the spirituality.
Mhm.
I've yeah, last year I bought a Bible and I read it from time to time and I speak to my brothers about it, but I am not religious. And a lot of people that be on my podcast, I always ask that question, are you religious? And I've only had one person say yes. Everybody else say no. I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. So I don't know if that's a shift in what's going on in the world, or it just coincidence that everybody that be on my show just spiritual and not
Yeah,
religious. I don't know.
I don't know.
Um,
Yeah, maybe you're attracting that. But
yeah,
I can say that a lot of churches struggle
right,
to stay afloat because, like, the younger generations aren't going the way
right,
that,
right,
like, maybe my parents' generation went, you know?
right, right.
So it is interesting. But
So the one thing I wanted to say is we we attract on a frequency and a vibration that we're on, right? So the longer we stay inside of sadness, doubt, fear, things of that nature, that's what we're going to attract. And you just was mentioning maybe that's the type of people I attract, right? So I'm about vibrations and frequencies. So
yeah,
like what do you think about that? Like as long as we dwell on these feelings, it's what we're going to attract.
yeah.
In other words,
Well,
the energy that we give off is what the energy we're going to receive. That's what I'm getting at. You agree with that?
yeah. I I totally agree with it. And for me personally, what I've had to be really careful of is to not spiritually bypass or,
Right,
circumnavigate feelings that are negative. Because
right,
I think, like, especially, for a while I was really in a deep rabbit hole with yoga. And I
mm,
was like, on this I was operating under this idea that, like, I need to never get mad, and it's not okay for me to not like somebody. I need
right,
to be so, like, open and loving that I love everybody, and I need to be so, quote, non-attached that nothing phases me. Well, no, I missed the memo, or I was, sick the day that they they would have explained that, like, it doesn't work that way, and we all, like, there's a lesson in negative emotions that's allowing us to, like, grow, grow and
right,
learn. And so, whereas I think I used to avoid my own feelings, um, I I let now what I choose to do is, like, if I'm starting to feel guilty about something, because that's gonna have a low vibration. Shame's the worst. That one's like the
right,
killer. That's like one level above death. And so
right,
when I work with people, especially that are just riddled with shame for whatever they did or didn't do or said or didn't say, like, it pains me because I know that they're vibrating one level above death. It's like you might as well just be dead already if you're going to walk around with that business.
right,
And
right,
so, however, it's like, can we unpack it and can we be with it? And then, better yet, can we alchemize it? And so,
right,
whatever transgression you think you made, let's say you stole something, you know,
mhm,
let's let's talk about, like, what else happened? Like, what else did you learn from that? What did you get? And, like, can we alchemize that into something that's more loving and light? And it led to you growing, you
right,
know? And so, anyway, I I totally agree with you. And I think if you want to have awesome people around you,
right.
then become the magnet for that. And
There you go.
however you define awesome. And it might be people with, like, you know, they're positive or they're
Right.
happy most of the time or they can see
Right.
the silver lining in something lousy.
Right.
So,
Right. I'm
yeah.
glad you said that. I mean, and that's exactly how I like to operate, and that's my mindset on a day-to-day basis. Now we had this one comment from Nicholas. He said, "Can we talk about dating? Why dating is so hard for Gen Z?" He said something like 70 are single. What do you think about
Okay.
that?
So what's Gen Z? Can you tell me?
Now, I'm about to look it up myself because I always be forgetting.
Yeah, I know.
See, let's
Is
see,
it
Gen
people,
Z.
are they mostly in their 20s or 30s?
So Gen Z was from the 1990s to the early 2010s.
Okay. So they'd be in their early 30s, something like that.
Uh, let's see, 19. No, that wait,
They're,
90s.
yeah, they're mid-20s,
Right.
mid-20s
Uh,
and younger.
right. Or no, it'd be in their 30s because let's see. Let's see. Let's see,
Oh my
1990
gosh,
to
are you
now.
good at math? So
Let me
if they're
see.
born in the if they're born in if somebody was born in 1990, then this year they would be 35, right? So it's like I'm gonna
Okay.
say people between ages of 20 and 35. Is that fair?
Right. Yeah, that's
And
fair. Something like that. Yeah.
something like that. So,
So they asked why is it so hard for them in the dating scene? What do you
well,
think?
and I okay, this is a theory, that this is like a put on the spot theory. Um, we were just talking about like being a magnet, and we were just talking about frequency. And so, oh, good, somebody's clued us in, mid 20s to early 30s. So, you know, what I've noticed with my friends who are single, and they're not Gen Z, but the ones that are single, they are, and they're on dating apps. I mean, they're making a lot of effort. Do you know? They're putting
Yeah.
themselves out there. Do you know? Like they're not just sitting at home, like, oh, I'm just gonna call it in. Um, but there's a resistance, and like
Right.
they're not open to love, and so yeah, they want
Mm,
to date, but it's probably, I wonder how much of it is fueled from like, well, I don't want to be alone,
right.
and then this fear of like, oh, I'm getting older, and so I don't, I want to hurry up and partner up with somebody so I'm not like, some
Right.
what like a, some 50-year-old with living with 10 cats in her apartment by herself or something like that.
Right.
But
Right.
but I think the real reason why people have trouble dating, it's really just a not openness. It's a lack of openness to the love.
Right.
And the reason that happens is because there's something about themselves that they don't love. So they're
Right.
giving off an energy of like, "Hey, yeah, I wanna go on a date with you, but there's a heap of me that's unlovable. Ready? Where'd you like to meet?"
Right.
And it's like, "Well, no, it doesn't, like, there has to be, like, some rightness with yourself
Right.
to really attract, like, a date that's gonna go beyond just one date, right?"
Right. I got you. Now, to add to that, what I was going to say is, I think, in my opinion, like part of it is something that they lack within themselves, right? Maybe in their household growing up, it was a broken home and they wasn't loved properly, so they can't love fully.
Yeah.
And also to add to that, I think technology and social media plays a large part in that. And I say that because nowadays people don't think for themselves. They do the chat GBTs
The
and
ChatGPT.
all these things in the world, and they're not allowing their minds to prosper. They're not allowing their minds to exercise, right? Because just like any muscle in your body, your brain is the biggest muscle, and you have to exercise that too. Like a lot of people shun reading or they shy away from reading, but reading is fundamental. And then a lot of people they might look at that as being corny or pathetic or whatever, but it's fundamental. It's very important, right? Because one of the most powerful things a person can do is walk in any room and hold their own in any conversation with anybody. That's one of the
Yeah.
most powerful things a person can do. So reading is very good. It's very useful, right? And you attract better people that way. Put it this way: people that want to succeed in life, they want to make the most money. They want to capitalize on the most money. How do you think you get there? Not by staying at the bottom of the barrel or staying in the middle of the pack. No, you have to elevate yourself and elevate your mind, and you have to Get out there and broaden your horizon and talk to people that's smarter than you, right? Because I've heard this somebody say this before. If you're the smartest person in the room, then you doing something wrong, right? Because
Yeah.
it's no cap on learning.
Yeah.
So once you figure something out, you should be on to the next task, the next thing you can learn, right? And that's how you evolve. Just
I
like
really like that.
so, I appreciate you. Like life is all about evolving, or at least it should be.
Yeah.
It should be about
Yeah.
progression. You shouldn't be stagnant. So progression it's an ongoing thing, right?
Yeah.
So you just got to keep moving, because that's what progression is. It's something that keeps moving. It's not something that it's not a destination. It's not okay. I went from A, now I'm on B and I'm done, because
Right.
you limited yourself, right? And if you limit yourself, that means you're crippling yourself, right? You're hindering yourself. You're stunting your own growth. So that's one thing I try to instill in my kids, like never stop learning. Never stop trying to be the best. I don't care if it's tying your shoe. Having your mind that I'm gonna be the best tire in the world. And as long as we all have that mindset, the
Yeah.
sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. And
Yeah.
we can make a lot of money. And that's how millionaires get there. That's why these millionaires write these books, these self-help books and DIYs and all this stuff, because you have to put in the work. And a lot of Americans are lazy. We don't like to put in the work.
Yeah.
And it's apropos that
Yeah.
I say that, because it's the same thing in relationships. A lot of us don't want to put that work in. When times get hard, we run from adversity. Well,
Yeah.
again, that's you hindering yourself. You have to look the devil in the eyes and say, "You cannot defeat me." You know.
That's awesome.
So, I mean,
It is.
just my little tidbit on that.
I like it. Well, I think if somebody wants to date, if someone wants to date and be in a
Mhm.
relationship, I think the
Right.
very best thing that one can do is work on yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Don't even focus on
Absolutely.
dating. Just focus on yourself and do
Right.
what you're saying. Grow and
Right.
learn. And that would be a magnet to a lot of people. Like, wow.
So let me ask you this. So when you're the generator, who do you plug into?
Am I the generator?
No, I'm saying like
uh,
if and when
yeah.
you are the generator, who do you plug into? In other words, it's like when when you that beacon of hope for other people, right? Like who do
Yeah.
you go to?
Yeah.
Right? That's what I'm getting at. Who do you go to?
You know, I definitely have spiritual teachers out there, and it's it's a little bit one sided, right? Like they don't know who I am per se,
Right.
um, but like their messages they're timeless, and so
Right.
I do I appreciate it that you said, oh, that you wake up happy, and I would say that most days that I do that, right?
Right.
But is it possible for me to lose hope? Absolutely. Do I get discouraged? Absolutely. Do I ever feel down? Of course I do. And
Mm.
at risk of this sounding really, really trite, um, I really appreciate nature. I mean,
Okay.
and I'm not rich in terms of bank accounts. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not like Donald Trump or something like that. Like it's not
Right. Right.
but I feel like I'm richer than he is. I'll just use him
Mm.
as an example because we know him, like we all know
Right.
him kind of well now. But
Right.
sometimes I feel even more rich than he is simply because I'm not disconnected from nature. I'm just not. Like I can drive in my driveway and there's three special birds, right? That otherwise we would never see in this neighborhood. And
Right.
that an experience like that, that's rich. Do you know? And I have the ability, my body's healthy and I can walk down to the creek and be surrounded by beauty. And there's something about that. Like when I go outside and I reconnect from really it is don't we all kind of come from earth?
Right.
And when I reconnect with that and all the beauty that she has given us, whether it's just like a blue sky, or a dewdrop on a leaf or a ladybug crawling, whatever it is, that fills my cup in a way that no dollar bill, not even you know the 5 love languages, where,
Right.
like, you get a gift or someone says something nice to you or whatever. Like, that's all lovely, and I sincerely appreciate those gestures, but nothing like, if I were to lose everything, and I was, like, out on the street, like, I would still no one can take nature away,
Right.
do you know? And so it's not a person that does. If nature's not doing the trick or whatever, my favorite spiritual teachers are a lady named Anita Morjani and Peter Crone. Do you know those people? Do you follow them?
No, but the crone, I've heard of the name before.
Yeah, he's pretty amazing. I actually have met him, but um yes, and I mean he's very compassionate and loving, and he's very very good at what he does. But
Yeah.
and he's alive, like he's alive, so you can hear him now. But anyway, yeah,
I got
that
you. So
okay.
before you mentioned, like, do you feel down and out, things of that nature? So my question to you is, what do you do when you feel overwhelmed?
When I feel overwhelmed,
Yes.
um, well, thank goodness I spent a bunch of time really deeply studying yoga. And so that there's like almost like body hacks, right? Like, deep breathing or meditation or maybe like a yoga practice. Like, so if I'm feeling overwhelmed, that when I'm feeling overwhelmed, let's say
Right.
it's like with emotion, or it's like with fear, or like I have so much to do. Like, really, I think what's being shown to me is I've signed up for something that's not in alignment with me. So
Hmm.
if my calendar is way too full or something like that, or I've like committed to doing things and I'm feeling overwhelmed, like, oh no, now there's not time to eat. Now there's not time to whatever, you know,
Right.
um, then I've abandoned myself in a way that was unself honoring enough that it led me to make leading me to believe that something was more important than me. And I don't mean it in a selfish way. I just mean like why was I willing to put my needs last? Because
Right.
that's usually when I feel the most overwhelmed. It's like I feel like I've committed to like showing up for all these different people in whatever way, and I like, well, where am I in that equation? And like
Got
that
you.
that seems to me to be like a lifelong battle. Like I constantly have to stay on the up and up to, not not lose that battle. But it's not
Got
like
you.
I have it licked. Yeah.
Okay.
Personally.
So,
Yeah.
what are the things that you're attracted to in a man?
In a man.
Mm.
Um, you know, I'm glad you asked that. um and I don't know if I speak for most women or not, but what I want in a man is for him to be all the things that a man is, like all the beautiful things that a man is, like to and the way I personally would describe that is like, strong and
Mm.
protector and like provides structure, and
Right.
like keeps me safe and um like that, like provide in a way. Do you know what I mean? Like without
Right.
me sounding like some sort of gold digger or something. But I think that like is sort of a masculine role is to be protective and like to be and to provide and to support. Like
Right.
that's just like a definition of masculine to me. But at the same time, um that he allows himself to cry and to be
Mm.
vulnerable. And so the
Mm.
strengths that a female brings to the table, like
Right.
nurturing or
Mm.
or like intuitive guidance. So like to be open and allow that. So I guess what would attract me to a man is one who's like extremely balanced between those two. And so
You know.
it's really not to do with like physique.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, now I'm actually glad you said that because oftentimes, especially with my older brother, right, we go back and forth because you know what? I'm gonna take it here. When I was younger, she's growing up with my mom and my aunts, and she surrounded herself with mostly women. right?
Yeah.
She didn't allow a whole bunch of men to come around, with her kids and all that stuff. So growing up with a lot of women, right? At a young age, I caught myself trying to read women and study women. And, I always said to myself, when I get older, I want to have that balance between the two. Now, I
Okay.
often tell my older brother the same thing, right? Like you gotta have that balance. You gotta have that feminine and you gotta have that masculine. And I don't mean
Yeah.
feminine like gay or something like that. That's not what I mean.
Right. Right.
What we classify as feminine traits. You have to have that balance. And I personally feel like women are attracted to that. Through personal experience in my life, being able to balance on both sides, a lot of
Yeah.
women gravitated towards me and said, "Wow, there's not a lot of men that's like that,"
There's
because they're so
not.
used to men just wanting to be one way, want to be macho, and that only can take you so far. Either
It's
that,
true.
or you're going to attract the wrong type of people, right? Because if you're all about positivity, you want positive people around you. Meaning, when it comes to relationships and dating, you want people that's going to be for you for who you are, not because you look big or you strong or you're intimidating. Because people that look for that in a relationship, in my opinion, are not going into that relationship with the best intentions. That's just my opinion. You have to love and accept somebody, man or woman, for who they are, right? Who they truly are.
Hmm.
It's not about wearing a mask every day. If you got to wear a mask, I don't want nothing to do with you. Right? Like I'd rather be around somebody that's themselves all the time because now I have the choice to accept it or not. I don't want to be around somebody that fake the funk or they got this facade, like because that's not going to do nothing for me. That's only going to stunt my growth, as we said before. That's me limiting myself, hindering myself because I'm putting my. Well, it's like once you get to a certain level in life, again, it's about progression, not degress. You shouldn't degress,
Yeah.
right? You can't go backwards. You got to go forward. The
Yeah.
sky's the limit.
Yeah.
So people that stagnate, it's like they're crippling themselves in America, and a lot of people need to stop doing that. So staying with the whole man thing, do you think there's still a lot of good men out there, or do you think a good man is hard to find?
Oh, no. I think there's tons of them out there. And I think so many of them, I think that men are waking up.
Right,
And I think that women now, I think that women that I mean, this is like very generalization
right,
here. But it's like, yeah, we said we wanted a man who would be vulnerable, but at the same time, it would have terrified us if he showed weakness. Do you know what
right,
I mean? And that's not fair. Like that's not fair at all. Like that was never allowing a man to be a do you know what I
right,
mean? To be
right,
authentic. And so, but I feel like that it's really changing.
right,
And I think that I think a lot of people are waking up and it's happening even faster. And I think that men are really they're realizing, okay, well, macho is not the way to go.
right,
I don't have to show up like that's inauthentic in and of itself. And
right,
they no longer have to play that role. And
right,
thank goodness, like they can show up authentically who they are.
right,
And so I think that not only do I think there's a ton of them out there, and I don't think it's a finite pool. I think it's like as many men are, on the planet right now,
right,
and
right,
all of them just maybe just like my podcast, they all have the capability of changing or like alchemizing and
right,
becoming that balanced version. And
right,
so I don't know how big that pool is right this second, but I think it's just gonna get bigger as we all continue to wake up.
right. Okay, and I see Allison said, independent but still loving, strong but still vulnerable.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's good. Now, now you spoke about the pool. That's crazy that you mentioned that because I was just about to mention that, right? Like, um, because we have to know our pool, right? And we have to move in alignment with that pool, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Um, now nowadays they say women are geriatric at the age of 35, right? And
What? They
yeah, yeah, yeah. I read that somewhere, and I was like, "Dang, that's
Okay.
wild." And so I don't
What does that
know
what does
if
that
they look at
mean?
geriatric. Oh, old.
just old. Like they're
Yeah, yeah. So geriatric means like old. So a lot of people they look at women that's 35 as being old, and I wonder how they look at men. Because when I seen that, I read that somewhere, and I was like, dang, if 35 for women is old, what is old for men? I mean, I know people call me old man all the time, but like that's wild, and I didn't know that. Um,
well, how old are you, if you don't mind my asking? Is that
well,
too
I'm
personal?
39. No,
You're
I'm
39.
39.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, yeah. Okay, you're not old. Um, and so geriatric in the sense that like they act older, they act the way an old woman would, or they look old, or both. This is
So
a scary metric, huh?
yeah, I guess it's a little bit of both. I mean, because they just say
Okay.
like how society views women at the age of 35 is they look at them as being
Oh, it's
geriatric, like
like being old.
old, yeah, like
Yeah.
old, like so. I
Like
mean, that's crazy. Because
I
I
I'm
feel like
gonna agree.
you're beginning to be. You said you agree.
No, I agree
Like I
with
feel like
you. I agree with
oh,
you that it's crazy. Yeah.
because when you're in your 20s, it's like you're going out, you're partying. So you mean tell me that's the cap, that small windows is it's young? Like, I
Right.
don't know, it's crazy to me.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like when I'm 50, I still gonna say I'm young. Once I get like
Well,
start pushing 60, then I'm like, all right, I'm old. But that's just me.
yeah. Well, by the time you get there, you might even change your mind because
But
look at what you're doing. Okay, and
yes,
let me just put it to you in these terms. Okay? The more that you grow and the
right.
more that you expand and the more that you evolve. So those three things, like grow, expand, evolve. And it's
Hmm.
not just happening that I'm assuming that you mean beyond your career. It's more for you than just your career, right? Like you're
Right,
going to grow in all kinds of ways, like emotionally, spiritually, like how, right? So you're on
right,
a path of you've already declared that you're on a path of evolution. And the only option for people that are on a path for evolution is that they become more light.
right,
They become right. They like, and I mean like less dense and density in terms of like vibration. So the higher your vibration becomes, the more you evolve, the younger you're going to look, and the younger you're going to feel. And
right,
even at the ripe old age of 50, you're going to still be blowing and going. And
right, right, right.
you're gonna look probably the same age that you do now. And
Well, they
it's
do
funny
say
to
black
be
don't crack, so it might be.
that's what I know. They do say I know. I'm like jealous of that. I mean, but I'm 51.
Oh, see, you
And
don't look it. See, I
see,
thought you
thank
was my
you.
age. See, that's good.
Sometimes I wish I were your age, but having said that, like
You
I'm
saying
so
like I'm old,
grateful for the wisdom. Like
right?
I'm grateful for the wisdom that I have at this age.
Well, well, I mean, that just goes to show that you doing something right. You know what I'm saying? Because, like I said, I thought you was in your 30s, so
Thank you.
that's good.
I sincerely appreciate that. And then, I mean, but not to give anyone some illusory idea that I won't like age and have gray hair and die, right? Like, of course, that's going to happen. However, um, I do think it's such a mindset,
Right. Yeah, me
and
too. That's true.
yeah, and I think like taking care of your physical health and your mental health does
Right.
wonders for how
Right.
youthful you look and feel
Right. And
and
I
act.
agree. So that's another thing. Like I started eating better, treating my body better, and I'm telling you, it's the truth when they say, what you put in your body is you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. I feel more energized. I feel better,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Eating better. Now, sometimes it's a struggle. I want to go out there and eat like shit, but
right.
because I've been on this little somewhat healthy kick, when I go back to eating like shit, I feel sick.
I
It's the
know.
weirdest
It's like
thing.
you
It's
can't
the
go
weirdest thing.
backwards. You
Mm-mm.
can't go it's hard to go backwards.
Now, Nicholas said a lot of people are saying that dating apps killed dating, but I think that misses the mark. The true culprit is the loss of community in the third place.
What's the
Um,
3rd place?
Yeah, I don't know, Nicholas. You got to tell us what the third place is. I never heard of that before. And then what do you say? As liberal women in Texas thought dating would be a nightmare mode of you. I'm not sure what he's getting at right there.
Hmm, I don't know. I you know, I don't know if dating apps have killed dating. I mean, but the one part that he said about, like, connection and community, like, for sure, because I think, like, the more online we are with our lives, like, uh, whatever,
Right.
or, like, glued to our devices kind of thing, and the less that are kind of making true human connection,
Right.
um,
I think that's
you
what he was
know
getting at.
yeah, I can understand that, like
Now, we already discussed how you're married, right? So
yes.
let me tell me this: how do you feel about marriage?
How do I feel
Like,
about
what's
it?
your thoughts on
Like,
it?
as
Yes,
an institution?
yes.
Um, well, I I love it. I mean, I guess I love it so much I've done it twice, but, um, no, well, I'm a fan,
Of
but
marriage? Okay.
I mean, I guess so. I, gosh, I hadn't really thought about it. I think let me give you this perspective. When I was growing up, there seemed to
Okay.
be a formula, okay? So now we've established, like, I'm a teensy bit older than you, but I, there was a little bit of a formula. It's like you go to school and you get good grades, and then you go to college and you get good grades there, and then after you
Mhm.
graduate from college, then you get a job, and then you start making some money, right? And then hopefully after college, you meet somebody and then you marry that person, and then with that person, you use your money that you save to buy a house, and then after you have that house, then you have a baby. Do you know? And, like, there's an order of things, right? And there's, like, this sort of
Right.
formula. And then you're gonna have, as many kids as you want, and then at some point you're gonna retire, and then when you
Right.
retire, you're gonna split your time between traveling and then taking care of the grandkids that your kids had. And then
Right.
you're gonna get sick, and then your partner's gonna put you in an institution, and you're gonna die. This is like the arc of life. And,
Right. Right.
yeah, and so, you know, I think that I bought into that formula. I mean, that's the
Right.
formula that my parents played out, and so I'm not saying that I married the wrong person. But I do think that there was a heap of emotional immaturity that I couldn't even I wouldn't have even been aware of back then. Like, I was just in
Right.
my own, blinders, right?
Right.
Um, and married somebody who definitely on paper was like an excellent match. And, it's not even like it was a very amicable split. And
Right.
that person actually lives like 2 blocks away. And so it's wonderful.
Right.
Like,
Well, right now. Right now.
yes, right
Oh,
now.
that's
I mean,
oh
like, when I go out
oh
for
that's
walks,
weird.
like, yeah, no, I run into him on the sidewalk, and it's actually kind of awesome. And we catch up and we talk about the kids. He pets the dog. Like, it all works, and
Right.
I'm really grateful for that. But
Right.
if I wasn't so bought into that formula, maybe I might have waited to, like, get to know myself. I
Right.
might have been able what was maybe a pink flag in our dating courtship, which became an unignorable red flag down the line. I might
Right.
have had the wherewithal to be like, as awesome as he is, probably not the best choice. And it's
Right.
okay if I could buy a house by myself. I could have a baby not being married. I mean, I could do everything out of order. And
Right.
but I didn't do that.
So that's the thing. Is that a lot of people get too hung up on the word mistake, right? Like mistakes are just life's like direction, right? Like this, it's how
Yeah.
we learn, right? So it's just obstacles in life. That's all mistakes are. It's something that we're supposed to take, correct, and make better, right? And that's
Yeah.
all it is. Sometimes bad relationships, bad people in our lives, they're placed there for a reason, right? It's a learning curve. It's something. It's a
Yeah.
message. It's a message in a bottle. Put it that way. I haven't heard that in a
Yeah.
long time. So in everything that we go through in life, it's a learning curve, right? It's
It
something
is.
to learn from.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, what do you say? The third place refers to a social environment separate from
Ah,
the
okay.
two primary settings of home and work, where people can interact, socialize, and build community. Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, I just
Yeah.
never heard of it, but I understand what that means now. Just never heard of it before.
Yeah, thank you for
Now,
explaining. Okay.
when I ask you about your stance on marriage, I ask that because again, this is another topic and debate that I have often too. Is I look at a marriage as a partnership. I'm not a partnership. Like you business partners. It's not like it's no longer about love, right? Because you invest all this money. You like if love is love. Love shouldn't have a value or dollar signs attached to it.
Right.
Now you pay all this money for a wedding.
Yeah.
You pay for the food to feed all these people just for one day,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
So it's almost like you glorify love and your whole commitment to love to one solitary day, and it should be every day if you love that person. I just really don't see a difference between a relationship and marriage other than paperwork. That's just me. So that's why I was trying to see where your stance was on that.
Yeah. I mean, I've
It's
seen people be in a really loving partnership where they weren't in the contract of marriage, like there wasn't a legal aspect to their
right,
union, you know?
right,
And it's like arguably as loving, maybe more so than the more conventional legal
right,
contracts.
right.
Yeah.
Because I personally know a lot more successful people that, like couple wise, that's in a relationship as opposed to marriage. I see
Yeah.
most people that in my life or people that I know, the ones that are married are the ones that suffer the most as far as relationship, right? And it's like, why is that? If marriage is the end all be all, why is it like that? You know what I'm saying? Why does it appear that people that are not married, they just in a relationship are more happier? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I just look
Yeah.
I just look at marriage differently. That's all.
Are
But
you
you
married?
know, huh? Am I
Are you
married?
married? Uh-huh.
I am not.
You're not.
I
Okay.
I am not. Will it happen? I don't know. But marriage right now is not something I'm chasing.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
be- because at the end of the day, you have to love yourself first before you can love somebody else. Not saying that I don't love somebody else, but you have to be right with yourself before you
Yeah.
attach yourself to somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And that goes on both sides, right? If
Yeah.
it can't be one sided, like you can't invest all your time, energy, and emotions and everything into this person if it's not reciprocated, if they're not pouring into you the way you pouring into them, then
Yeah.
y'all still have fixing to do. Y'all have issues that need resolving before you take that next step. So
Yeah.
that's just how I look at it. So marriage for me is not something I'm chasing. If it happens, it happens, but it's got to be the right time. It's got to be with the right person. I'm not saying I
Yeah.
got all the time in the world, but like, that's just my stance on that. Because, at the end of the day, we have to position ourselves to be found by the person that we want.
Yeah.
Right. And I say that because, a matter of fact, I just posed the question to you. Um, what do you think about dating and not settling?
Dating and not settling.
Yes.
Um, well, I don't think anybody should settle.
Okay.
And
Why is that?
that's because it's ultimately because it's inauthentic.
Okay.
It's now, let me say this. It's one thing to understand that no person is going to be perfect,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
And so like you may have to make a compromise here and there,
Right.
but never, ever, ever settle because that eventually is going to become the pink elephant in the room. And so
Right.
going back to what I said at the very beginning of the conversation, that's going to be the cause of your demise. And
Mm.
I have to ask if someone is settling for any reason at all, like where in their life or what about them do they not think is worth it?
Mm. That's a good question.
Like it is. And I think that would be the underpinning issue of why someone would even consider. It's like, and I have to, I'd have to ask too, like, what are you settling on?
Uh,
um, but like, you know, if it's how someone looks, if you're not attracted to the person, whatever little thing that you've decided, okay, I'll live with that because I don't think I'm ever going to find somebody else, or I don't think you know, there's this whole worthiness issue going on, right?
right.
Then
Right.
that is going to become so exacerbated
Hmm.
in your house, like in your household, that you won't eventually you won't be able to avoid it. It'll be like a tsunami tidal wave.
Right.
So there's no running away from that one.
Right. Now, see, I agree with you, right? I feel like everybody should create the life that they want with the person they're with, right? And not settle, right? Like, because, like you said, like when you settle, you open in the doors for a lot of demise, right? I
Yes.
believe that's the way you put it. So it's just not good to settle. I feel like if you find yourself needing or wanting to settle, you should just like be friends with somebody, right? Have a friend with a
Yeah.
benefit or something or like that. Just not get into a relationship. Just date. Put it that way. Just date people and just be open with that person. Like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
just trying to live. But this is, but then I feel like it's a fear for a lot of people. I think a lot of people would rather just date. But 9 times out of 10, especially nowadays, if a man go to a woman and say that's all they want, a woman gonna be like, oh no, I know my worth, I know my value, and I want more than that. So I think it's a fear that's attached to that as well. And women, it's a lot easier for women. And women can go to a man and I just want to date, right? Because men don't think with their right heads 9 times out of 10, right? That's just how it is. Now,
Right,
it's
right,
it's
right.
it's the truth. Like I know in my past, I like this gonna sound crazy. A lot of women might be like, oh, they might shake their head, their eyes might fall out, but I've messed around with a lot of wounded birds in my life, right?
Yeah.
Like meaning when I was younger, I used to call them goblins, like people that I'm not attracted to, but they was available. And I'm like,
Right.
okay. So I
Yeah.
attached myself to them for a benefit, but then that's where we left it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's settling, right? Because again, I was younger, and I ain't have a man that does that. They don't have standards. They don't have values. And a lot of men say they do have standards, but why are you messing around with somebody you're not attracted to? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I know for men, that's something we should all work on is having standards. Because I think women are better than men in that aspect. Is setting standards, right? So,
Yeah. Well, you like
um,
to you're a chef, right? I mean, you cook.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And so what do you think is better? Like a Chips Ahoy cookie or like one that you made yourself?
Well, one
A
I made
homemade
myself.
cookie.
Absolutely,
Right?
absolutely.
Yeah. And I think like I mean, I can understand like a that that sort of hunt and peck like physical desire that men, like there's a bigger driver there that men
Right,
have than maybe a woman has. Like a woman's not seeking that. Like a woman's seeking security and comfort and right? But
right,
um but like to go out with a goblin, or like, oh well that's convenient,
yeah,
available here right now. Okay, let's
right,
go. But to me
right,
that's kind of like it's a Chips Ahoy cookie, so it's okay, do you
right,
know? But in the long run, if I got to choose, like, okay, for the rest of my life, what am I gonna choose here?
right.
I want the homemade cookie.
Right, something you can build it from scratch, something you can mold to your
And
liking.
it's, like,
Not
rich. I
necessarily
mean,
mold
it's
to your
like
liking, but it's rich. Yes, that's a good word. It's very rich.
yeah.
It's you know what it is? Since you brought up cooking, right? So now I gotta use cooking as an analogy.
Please do.
So when you go to the store, that's convenience, right?
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
especially when we get older, we should want more than convenient, right? Because when we get into a relationship, now we putting in that work that I like to talk about all the time. We put in that work. You building with that person, and it's more meaningful and it's more special that way. You get more out of it, right? Because now you're
So
hands
much
on.
more.
You're
Yeah.
hands on. It's not like you putting your hand out for a handout. This is
Yeah.
something you build, right? Anything you build physically, mentally, it do something for you, right? Like you
Yeah.
say, rich. It makes you feel rich. It makes you feel on top of the world. I built this. I made this. I created this. This came from me. Now,
Mhm.
something that's convenient didn't come from you,
Yeah.
right? So the value is not there. That's like when you go to the store and you go to like a jewelry store, and you see something behind the big glass because only the pricey stuff is really behind the glass, and you look at it and you be like, wow. Now when you put in the work to be able to afford that, and now you get it, you bring that home, it's more value in that. It puts a smile
Yeah.
as opposed to getting something that's on the clearance rack. You get it, you're like, oh, well, it's an
Yeah.
imposter, it's a fake, it's fraud, it's not the same. You're just not going to feel the same way about it. You know what I'm trying to say?
I do.
Now this can sound a little crazy to some, just like kids. When you have your own kids and they come from you, it's more meaningful, right? And it's crazy as it's gonna sound. I don't mean to sound fucked up or nothing like that, but it's more meaningful than as opposed to when you adopt. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like
Mhm.
the people that look at it, adoption and it's coming from your womb is the same. I think that's coming from people that's been broken growing up, right? If you look at it the same, because it's like, okay, it's like you got it off the clearance rack, and you didn't put in the work for it. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, it's just a different value attached to it. That's all.
That's really interesting. Did you well, not I mean, hopefully this is okay to tell you, but I'm actually adopted.
Okay.
I'm adopted. Like I so, I said I had an older brother.
Yes.
My parents, like they had him. Like they had
Right.
him by their own abilities. So like from their bodies. And then my
Like a
mom,
surrogate.
no, like they
Oh, oh, naturally,
like
naturally.
the natural way. Yeah, like nature's way. And then they, like my mom got sick. And so she had this like radical hysterectomy and whatever. And so then um but they wanted another child, and so they adopted me. And
Right.
I have to tell you, like I don't look anything like my family. And so for the whole of my life, like I've felt like, oh, I don't belong. Like, I don't belong here, do you know?
Yeah.
And then
Right.
meanwhile, I'm like, "Well, who was this lady that had me and just threw me away like a piece of trash?" Like, this is and, like, none of this is on my conscious mind, it's all subconscious, but it's, like, running behind. And, like, thank God for yoga, thank God for Ayurveda, thank God for Peter Crone, like, I could really understand, like, that was a lie that I bought into. Do you know what I or,
Right.
like, a belief that I chose conveniently just to probably stay limited, like question my
Right.
own worthiness or something like that. And so it's really interesting that you use that. So I hope it's okay that I shared that story with
No,
you.
no, it's
That like,
no, no, it's good. It's good. It's good.
okay.
So now there's nothing wrong with being adopted, right? That's not where I was getting at with that. An adoptee, I feel like it should be more meaningful and impactful for them, right? And I say that because, like, to know that somebody else wanted you, and especially if they treat you like their own, they treat you with dignity and respect and love.
Oh, for sure.
I
Yeah.
I think that holds a lot of value in itself. So as an adoptee, I think that it's a lot more value in that, just to know that you're not alone. Because I think a lot of people that's adopted at some point in their life, when they realize that they was adopted, I think a lot of them feel like they don't have that sense of purpose in life,
Yeah.
right? Because I know a lot
Yeah.
of people that was adopted, and then they feel like, oh well, how come this and how come that and why did this? But on the flip side, you got to look at it like, you're not alone. Somebody else wanted you. Somebody else is willing to invest time and energy into you. You know what I'm saying? Long as it's the right
Yeah.
person. Long as it's the right person
Yes.
in your life. Now, Nicholas, yes, Desmond Black is my actual name. My last name is Black, and for some reason, a lot of people, they don't believe me. They think I made that up, but that's my
Really?
actual. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't
That's
know
a
why, but
nice name.
like in school, people used to be like, "Oh, like, do they call you Black because you Black?" I'm like, what? That don't even make sense. But a lot of people always question my last name. I don't know why, but I love my last name because it's powerful. It's a lot of
Yeah.
meaning behind it, and being a Black man and having the last name Black, that's great. Like my son plays football, and I
Yeah.
tell him all the time, "Yo, do good in football because your name is powerful." You know what I'm saying? And when
Yeah.
being a Black male and you excel, that's going to resonate to a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, you're actually really lucky.
Dignity, respect, and love. That's right. Everyone needs that, and far too few get those things. And yeah, it's a very cool name. I appreciate you, Jen. Um, I appreciate you for stopping by. And Bosco, I see you was on Facebook watching, and Marcy, I appreciate you as well, and everybody else that's watching. I appreciate you all. Love the support. Um, so where I want to go. So yeah, we was talking about the work, right? So some people don't want to put the work in, right? So the people that don't want to put the work in, they shouldn't expect someone who is putting in the work, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah,
So
it
I think a
does.
lot of times people, it's like wanting a handout. They say they want a relationship, but it's just word of mouth. You can't say you want a relationship if you're not willing to put the work in, right? Like people can't cry about needing or wanting money if they're not willing to put the work in for it, because nothing's for free in this world,
Mhm.
right? And it's more value. And speak about what's attractive. I've heard a lot of women say it's nothing more attractive than having a man that's available to work, that's doing the work. that's busting their ass to try to provide. Like you said, that's one of the things that you're attracted to is a man that provides, right? Now, a lot of men, I don't know why they think it's attractive to just sit on the couch and play video games all day and just not do nothing for themselves. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying you have to have the best job in the world. I
Right.
feel like as long as you out there putting in the work and you're trying, you putting forth the
Yeah.
effort, and that's to me is where the value lies. I think that's what's important. Like I don't get hung up on a dollar amount. Again, when we talk about marriage, it should not be about materialistic things. It should not be a dollar sign, right? And so one of my pet peeves is when women criticize a man for how much they make. Well, so
Yeah.
a woman that criticizes a man for how much they make, I feel like they're a gold digger. I feel like they out for a financial gain. They're not in it for love. They're not in it for that man himself. So I just think it's unfair, and it's a lot of women. As I get older, I'm seeing it a lot more. A lot of women, oh, he's so attractive. They talk a week, they talking, and then all of a sudden it's all about finances. And I've
Mm.
known a lot of men to tell a woman up front, like, listen, if you all about money, we can end this conversation now. And oh no, because that woman is attracted to him, and they continue to have a conversation with him. A lot of women feel like they can just shape and mold a man to their liking and bend them to who they want them to be. But again, you're
Yeah.
going into that relationship with the wrong reasons. You might as well just settle. You might as well just date and not ask for a relationship. And that's just my stance on that.
Well,
You
and
know?
I think if a woman, if it all comes down to dollars and cents, then she is settling because she's compromising other really important values that right now, for
Hmm.
whatever reason, are taking center stage. You know,
Right, right.
but I'll say this: like, if I were to see a man, let's say I was in the dating pool and I were to see a man that didn't see his own worth,
Right.
and limited himself, that would maybe be the one time where I'm like, I don't like I don't like where you are with this whole thing. Like, because
Mm,
you're so much more capable than you're giving yourself credit for. Like, there's no
right.
you're limitless. Like
Right.
and so it would suggest that he doesn't believe in himself. And like
Mm,
that's not what I want to mirror, that's not what I wanna attract, right? And so
right.
it's okay if, like, the success isn't, like, at some dollar amount level, but I wanna see that a person, like, believes in himself and, like,
Right.
knows his worth. Whether he's,
Right.
like, earning it at this exact moment or not doesn't matter, but at least he
Right.
knows it, and he knows that there's, like, a potential there. And so
Right.
I think that's like the one time that either gender could criticize the other gender for not like
Right.
earning enough. And it's because
Yeah.
they're not seeing their own value. Like they're not seeing how awesome they are.
Now, yeah, so I agree with that, and I see where you're going with that, right? But like, it's just like or employment, right? Like it's different brackets that we all fall in, right?
Yeah.
Um, like high value masculine and high value feminine, right? They
Mhm.
don't choose average because they don't have to. You know what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say? So it's like
Yeah.
we attract like-minded people. We're creatures of habit, right? So back to what we saw earlier about the energies.
Yeah.
The energy that you want is the energy you got to give off, right? So this is the thing. In a relationship, if you're high value, you're going to attract high value. You're not
Yeah.
going to look at somebody that's low value. And so a lot of times men, even women, they might be low value, but they say they want high value, but they can't compete. And it's not going to be sustainable. Because if you here and you can't keep up with this person, how do you expect the relationship to last? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I
So
do.
so it goes back to what I was saying about we just have to know our pool, right? We don't jump into the deep end if we can't swim. You know what I'm trying to say?
Sure. Yeah,
So
I
I
do.
love quotes and I love analogies. So but that it's the truth. If you can't swim, don't jump in that deep end. Just get your feet wet. You know what I'm saying? It's baby
Yeah.
steps. It's baby steps. It's just like relationship, anything in life is it's baby steps. So take your time. If you want high value, do the work necessary to put yourself on that pedestal, right? Put yourself in position to be high functioning. You know what I'm saying? And that's it.
Yeah.
It's you're never too old to learn. So yeah, that's what I like to
That's
say to
right.
that. So okay, let me ask you this: what are some red flags for you? What are some red flags in men or relationships for you?
Red flags. Um, the I think I use the word authenticity a lot, but
Right.
like when someone's inauthentic. So if they're presenting themselves with a mask,
Right.
or like, trying to put a foot forward that they think is gonna, it's almost manipulative in a way, like I think without them meaning to, but it's like, how can I win this person over? Okay, I'm gonna say what I think she wants to hear.
Right.
I'm gonna act the way I think she wants to act, but it's not really true to himself. And
Right.
so I have a pretty good radar for that one, like a pretty good sniffer. And so that should be, for me, it's a red flag that I would almost just turn around and walk away immediately.
Right.
Yeah. And so, the thing is, like, I understand why people do that,
Right.
absolutely. But that's a huge red flag. Anybody who's not present, like, let's just say like you're on an actual date with somebody and they're like looking on their phone and they're texting
Mm.
somebody and they're maybe like, I don't know if she's gonna go home with me tonight, so I'm gonna go ahead and line up something for after this BS is over. Like that too. And so like it's the stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
See, that goes back to social media. I think social media is killing relationships as well because sometimes people do that inadvertently. They do it subconsciously. They don't. They might be into the person,
They
but
might.
we live in a world of technology and social media these days. So, like, it could be somebody you really feeling, and you're just in your phone. And I can see where that's unattractive because I've been in that situation, like where it's like you out. It could be just a friend. If you're in your phone and you invest all your time and energy in your phone, and I'm just sitting there, I might as
Just
well have
sitting
went out by
there.
myself. Yeah, I might as well have
Right.
went out by myself. So
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I get that wholeheartedly. Now let me
Yeah.
ask you this: would you date a narcissist?
Well, no, I
Mm,
wouldn't. Sometimes they're hard to detect,
right,
because they're by I think by nature they can be pretty charming, you know?
right,
And so no, because ultimately, right? Like to come together and create a whole unit, like two
right,
halves of a whole. So like we're
right,
coming together and it's like we both need each other to create like a relationship that's whole with a
right,
WHOLE, right?
right, right.
And a narcissist is never doing that. A narcissist agenda is to constantly like reinforce the construct of his or her ego, right? So that he feels safe in the world. And so whatever he needs to do to do that. And so
Okay.
no, I would, if I could see that for what it was, like, oh, okay, we've got a narcissist on our hands. Sure. And I decide, hey, I'm gonna settle. I am setting myself up for a lifetime of misery with that person because they're just so incredibly self-absorbed and can't see beyond, do you know? And it's not a contribution. It is not a
Right.
contribution
So
to
I'm gonna go against the
me.
I'm gonna go against the grain a little bit. Let me say
Okay.
now. I feel like we are all narcissists if we're successful. If we're a little bit successful, I think we all
You think so?
share characteristics and traits of being a narcissist. Yes,
Okay.
because
I'll
you think about one second. Because if
Yeah,
you think about
yeah.
it like this, like people that's of power or an authority figure, do they or do they not exhibit a lot of narcissistic characteristics?
Sometimes I think so. But is there a fine line between, or is there like a jumping off point between being self-honoring, and a narcissist? Like a narcissist can't even ask, they can't even entertain the idea if they're a narcissist. It wouldn't even occur to them to be like, "Oh, am I a narcissist?" Do you know? I think so.
But if somebody say you're dumb, are you going to believe that you're dumb? No,
No,
right?
no.
If I feel like if you hold yourself to a high regard, if you put yourself on a pedestal, I feel like you don't want to hear nothing besides that. Like you're not going to entertain that, right? Like if somebody say you're an idiot, you're gonna be like, I'm not an idiot. So like, you know what I'm
Well,
saying?
and
Because you
yeah.
love and value yourself. That's I don't know. I just feel like when you have a level, like when you start to be successful, I think you become a little narcissistic. I just feel that.
I mean, maybe, but like the example that you gave earlier about like, don't be the smartest guy in the room. Like, always
Right.
be willing to learn, always be willing to grow. Even if you think your shit is, you like, you're hot shit and you're like
Yeah.
the best, there's still something to be learned from somebody in that room. It's not all about like, you know, whatever.
I got you.
Come experience my greatness, and
Right.
you're welcome. You're welcome for me being here. Right?
Right.
There's some,
Right.
and so that's a sad attitude to have. It's unfortunate because it's a
I got
missed
you.
opportunity. And so with successful people, I think what makes a true successful person is they realize what you already said, which
Right.
is, I'm not the smartest person in the room. There is
Right.
something I might have a lot going on, and I might be confident as shit, and it might even be off-putting to somebody who's not feeling that confident about themselves. However, I wanna do it better. I wanna grow. I wanna learn. I wanna excel. And so
Right.
and that is a distinction. A narcissist is gonna be like, "Don't don't tell me what to do. I know what's best. I got this covered. Do you know, like, there's nothing you can illuminate for me. Thank you and
Right.
goodbye."
I
And
got you.
so
Now, Allison
that's
did put
to
a
their own
definition.
demise.
So Allison said, a narcissist is, it says, have the inability or unwillingness to recognize the needs and feelings of others, very different from being selfish. And Jen says, Desmond, if you'd been with a narcissist, I don't think you would say that they're not
Right,
great.
right.
See,
They're
I'm not
not.
putting a narcissist on a pedestal. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying a lot of people of power, they abuse their power. Like, let's look at Trump. Let's look at a lot of people that's in a position of power. That's all I was saying. They forget where they come from, and they
Yeah,
forget about certain values and how to treat people. Like, in restaurants or anywhere that you got a boss, they forget where they come from, and a lot of times they talk down to their employees or they talk to them like they beneath them. They don't treat them like
yeah,
equals.
yeah,
So that's what I was getting at. I feel like when you have a level of success, that you have narcissistic characteristics. Right now, there's a difference between having narcissistic characteristics and having a narcissistic not disability, the word slipped my mind, but like a
tendency?
disorder, like a
Disorder,
disorder.
okay,
It's the difference
yeah,
between having the tendencies and a disorder, right? It's just two
yeah,
different things. Now for me, when I ask you about red flags, for me, one of my big red flags in a woman or a person is a lack of character, right? Like, my thing is, are you validated by the people that's around you, or are you validated by who you say you are? Right?
mm,
Like, I feel like a person, speak about narcissistic, like, I feel like a person shouldn't validate themselves, right? People around them should validate them. I think people that try to validate themselves are either broken or narcissistic. People that say, "Oh, this is who I am," because I feel like if what word of mouth is what you're saying you are, like, it should resonate with everybody else. So let everybody around you validate you, right? You shouldn't validate yourself. Like, if you have self worth and you love yourself and you know who you are, you shouldn't have to validate yourself. Just be you, right?
yeah,
And don't worry about what everybody's saying, right? And that's just how I feel on that. So for me, one of my big red flags is a woman or a person that don't have character or they lack character, right?
yeah,
You
yeah,
need to know your self worth. You got to have value. You got to know who you are as a person, and you got to know where you are in the present, and you need to know where you want to be in the future.
yeah,
So those are the type of people I like to be around. Is when you have a path, you have a clear direction for your life, and that's the people I want to be around. If you in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on and so forth, and you're still unsure, you the wrong person for me. I got to control alt delete you out of my life.
I'm deleting you.
Yeah, control alt delete just like a keyboard. You got to get out of here. You know. So do you feel like social media is destroying relationships?
Um, destroying, do you mean, like, dating relationships or just relationships in general?
I guess a
And
little bit of both, but I was more focused on like the dating
the
aspect.
dating, oh, okay. Yeah. Um, well, I'll say this, like, I've seen people get on dating apps and then get off of them because it was such first of all, it didn't come naturally to them. Like,
Right.
there's something inorganic about that process. Do you
Hmm.
know? And so I think that felt out of alignment for them. So already they feel like a fish out of water. And then so there's that level of discomfort already before any swiping starts happening, right?
Yeah.
But then when that does, like that impact on like the self-esteem and them questioning like their worthiness, their relevance to the gender, to whoever they want to date, was, enough for them to want to get off the app. And so
Mm.
I've known people that have met their spouses on apps and they are happy as clams. And it's a wonderful union. And it's awesome. Cause I would think it like Nicholas was saying, it's kind of hard to meet. Like if you're living alone and you're just going to
Mhm.
work every day and there's no one in your workplace that you want to date, then like, how do you meet people? Do you know,
Yeah,
like
it is
how,
hard.
and you,
No,
and you
yep.
don't have that third party place or what is that what he called third place?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
third place. Yeah,
yeah, then like how do you do it? And so
you're
in
right.
that way, dating apps are awesome.
Yes,
At least it gets you out there, you know?
yeah.
I don't
So
know.
where I was going, all right, let me ask you this. Do you post pictures and comments about your significant other on social media?
Um, very, very rarely, just out of, respect for his privacy.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I,
So
yeah.
go ahead.
So,
So
but yeah,
well,
probably not.
okay, okay. So what I was saying was, so as far as social media destroying relationships, what I was getting at was like, I feel like people are tried more when they post their significant other on social media, right? Like for instance, like you post pictures. Like if I post a picture of my girlfriend on there, I feel like that's opening the doors for men to be like, oh, I want to see what's she about. Or if you leave comments, say, oh, she like this. I think it opens the door for a man to say, you know what? How he get this girl? Let me see what I can do. And I feel like they're more inclined to jump in her inbox and want to talk to her. As opposed to if you don't post her all the time, you don't make these comments, I feel like they're less inclined to want to, try their luck with her. Or same thing with, on the other side. I think when you post, it makes people intrigued, right?
Huh.
Like y'all
Yeah.
go out and say if my girlfriend dressed a certain way and I post a picture, I think a man is be like, oh shit. Because now, social media, you don't have to look for things these days.
Yeah.
Mutual friends, pictures and stuff pop up, and then that guy might be like, you know what? Shit, let me see if she available. She live in my town. Let me see if she available. And I
She
just think that
like
like social media in that aspect, it's like promoting your significant other, and I think that can hinder relationships. That's what I was getting at.
I see. Okay, okay. Yeah. And well, okay, let's say I did post a picture of my significant other and like women were like, "Oh my god, why is he with that chump Catherine?" I'm going to try my hand. I'm going to try, I'm going to have him
Yeah,
meet me because then he'll see the light, and jump,
right, right,
cut the line with her.
yeah.
I mean, and if that's what is my destiny, I mean, if that's what's supposed to happen, do that's what then that'll happen. And I can't stop it whether I'm posting pictures on social media or not. And
See,
so
it's crazy. You said like it's so easy. It's just like, well, if that's what God has in store for me, like forget that. We all got feelings, and that hurt.
well, not saying I wouldn't cry over that one, however.
Sometimes
And
makes them feel special if you post them from time to time. I mean, I get it, but all I'm saying
I
is
think
I think that's
Allison's right.
promoting. All right, from a woman, I expect a woman to feel
Yeah.
special, but I also feel like that's promoting your relationship. You know what I'm trying to say? It's like
Yeah.
when you Craigslist or anything you post on there, when you try to sell things, you post things, right? But you want to see, you want it to attract, you want people to be attracted to it so you can make value off of it, right? And I feel like the same thing in relationships. You post your significant other, now it's like you're promoting them. Like if you aren't afraid to
Yeah.
show her or him off, oh my god, that's what I think. That's from a woman's standpoint. Like you guys are just built on emotion and y'all just like y'all are attracted to like, oh my god, like he's really put me out there. That lets me know that he really loves me, or he's telling all the other women out there that, you know what I'm saying, I mean all the other men that's mine. I think that's how women look at it. Like, yeah, I get that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's not important or it's not a good thing. It's not what I'm saying.
There's probably
I
a
don't know.
balance to it somewhere, you know?
It should be a balance. Yeah, it should be
Yeah.
minimum. If anything, it should be minimum. I'm gonna go there.
Okay.
Minimum.
Okay.
It's a lot of people these days that every day they want to post about their significant other, whether they get in an argument, whether they making love, or they go out to dinner. They posting everything. It's like reading a novel these days. It's like
Yeah.
reading somebody's biography. You know what I'm saying? And
It's
that's
like
what
it's
most
voyeuristic in a way.
right. So do
Yeah.
it occasionally. Cool. I'm okay with that.
Hmm.
Like it's almost like I always felt like if I let a person in, they'll betray me. So for me, it's always been a mental thing for me. Like I'm not going to be posting my significant other, right? Because I feel like I'm letting the world in to what I hold dear to me, what I value, and I feel like I always felt like the world or somebody's going to betray me. They're going to take what's mine, and that comes from me growing up in a broken home and feeling lack of love, and feel like I
Yeah.
lack growing up. So a lot of that is brokenness for me.
Yeah.
I can't speak for
Yeah.
nobody else. So it's like if I love somebody, then I'm gonna hold them close. I'm not gonna promote them, and that's just why I have a different outlook on certain things like that. That's all. You know,
It's coming from a place of self-protection and protection of them.
right. And I'm trying to get past that. I mean, I've gotten better with it, but it's still an uphill battle. I've talked to therapists about it, and they was like, you have to let that go. You have to set yourself free from that. You're not free until you get rid of all that, right? It's about and my therapist said, you always talk about vibrations and frequencies and stuff like that. Like, it's like high functioning or high value. How can you be high functioning when you still allow this negativity to consume me, right? So, and I hate to hear that. I hear that. I'm like, because I look at myself as being high value or operating on a high frequency. So when somebody tell me you can't function or operate on high frequency until you detach yourself from these problematic things and the wrong mindset, it bothers me because I'm like, what are you trying to say? I'm lying to myself, and that's just what I'm saying. But again, I still fight demons of feeling broken inside, right? Like that's the
Mhm.
traumas that I spoke to you about before. Like a lot of times I talk about therapy and trauma all the time, like because I still feel traumatized by a lot of things. I still struggle with trying to get past certain things that I should have, or I feel like I should have gotten past at this point in my life. But it's easier
Right.
said than done. That's all.
It is, and it takes what it takes. And
Right.
yeah, and it's
Um.
that's all really understandable.
Right. I got you. And so it's been great, Catherine, and like I said, you're more than welcome to jump on any other time, any other episode that I have. And like I said, I look forward to being on yours. I'm actually
Yes.
excited to how that's going to come out. So for
Yeah,
all
we
my
can talk
viewers,
about your brokenness.
there you go. There you go. I'm all for it. I'm open book. I'm all for it. And like I said, before we went live, I was saying how the podcast for me is therapeutic. Like I look at it like anybody that I engage with on the podcast, it's like a therapist or like a counselor. So sometimes we need to get things out, and that's why I use this platform for that, and just to touch the minds and the hearts of other people that's around. Some people might need that encouragement. Some people might need that love or that uplifting spirit, and that's what I'm here for. I like to give off positive energy. I like to educate and enlighten people, and like I said, I'm just a positive person, and I'm a great time. But enough about me, because I can go on and talk about myself. But to everybody that's been viewing, watching, I hope you got something from this. I hope I support you. I mean, I'm sorry. I appreciate you guys for continue to support me. Continue to do that, like, share, comment, and just spread the word, man. Because my caseload is growing by the minute, by the day. But until next time, Catherine, you have a blessed day.
Thanks, you do the same. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, no problem. It's been a pleasure. Have a good day.
Likewise. Yeah, you too.